So quickly moving to the panel number 4, and the theme of the panel is from cryptocurrency and fintech to CBDC, discussion from the dimension of Islamic digital economy. I am inviting Dr. Mughees Shahukat. He will chair the session, and we have five panelists: His Excellency Mr. Bilal Rasul, Mr. Masumi Hamahira, Mr. Tahir Emrah, Mr. Mohamed Kateeb, and Mr. Salman. Over to Dr. Mughees for the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear brother Hasnan, and Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the people who have joined this beautiful, prestigious platform that is fast developing itself into a global brand. We call it the 5th World Islamic Economics and Finance Conference, and the might of this whole platform can be judged by the support it carries in the institutional spectrum globally as well as locally. And I mean, I had a chance to, listen to the back end of the last session, and there was some fantastic discussion going on. Rizwan wrapped it up pretty well. It was an important topic regarding social finance spectrums. But believe you me, guys, since yesterday morning till now, a very crucial discussion has been put forward yet again by this platform, but none as crucial to the dimension that this session is going to put forward or carry. And not only the content that this session is going to produce, or the topic it's going to cover, but the people involved who are going to cover this topic. And I feel so overwhelmed. I'm extremely, blessed to have such a power-packed panel of experts with me to deliberate in a very practical, very layman language term to regale the Pakistani audience, the policymakers, the academia, the practitioners, as well as the international arena, to debrief and decode the notion of financial technology from an array of perspectives. A regulatory perspective. I have a massive superstar who's a massive servant to the country, Bilal Rasul, His Excellency. Bilal Saab, how are you? Hope you're coping well. Always good to see you on mute, I'm guessing.
Yeah, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalatu wassalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah. Thank you so much, Mughees. I'm not sure I'm worthy of so much praise, but it's an honor to be here. It's always an honor to be beside you in the session.
All the same. I reciprocate the same.
Pleasure to be here.
And of course, if you think he is the superstar in the session, I could go to another superstar, an equally giant when it comes to financial technology services, particularly for the Islamic financial sector. My main man, my brother, Mohamed Kateeb. What a, in the last session we were together, have you considered my thought of running for the office? I mean, you're amazing. You're amazing, and I love having you in the sessions.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Mughees. Thank you for inviting me again to be part of this important event. Looking forward to a great discussion.
Fantastic. And my brother, dear brother Salman Kabani, Bank Nizwa. Here. Bank Nizwa from Oman. How are you, my brother?
Alhamdulillah, Brother Mughees. Thank you very much. Thanks for
a thing or two about Salman. He may look very docile from his looks. I mean, he's handsome, yes. But guess what? He is an absolute shrewd strategist. This is no wonder he's as head of strategy in the bank. I mean, he's managing it really, really well. And the numbers show, as a matter of fact. Bilal Saab, you're aware of it, so is Kateeb. Now, let me move to the land of robots and gadgetry, the Japanese people. Masumi, where are you, buddy? Can we see you? Oh, there you are. Look at him. Funky classic Japanese hairstyle, very gadgetry background. All of us having this very normal 101 Minhaj background, but look at him, land of robots. I've visited Japan multiple times, man, oh man, everywhere you see robots, and it's sometimes scary. So he's the right guy to talk gadgets into all of this themes. And he's a master of blockchain. He's been awarded, in multiple times at an international level as well to what he does. And, we are honored to have Masumi over here. Masumi, I don't know how to speak Japanese, but let me say arigato for being in this platform. And we are missing our brother Emrah. He's on the way. Absolute big tech giant, absolute big tech giant from PayPal. Always have, a blessed time whenever we have Emrah or PayPal, bless our shows and deliberate in our dynamics. So without further ado, folks, given the importance of this massive session, because this is the normal world now. And Bilal Sahab, you and I were discussing just a week back what we are planning for Pakistan to create a campaign or an awareness or a multifaceted orientation to help promote SECP, what it's coming up in these domains, in the Pakistani spectrum, policy-wise, frameworks-wise, initiative-wise, and support-wise. And you are a superstar regulator. I mean, the country knows you, knows your services. I mean, I don't know if you plan to retire or if you ever retire, because you'll remain an asset to the field and the country too. So I would want to come back to you, Bilal Sahab, because you're the main man. You're going to regulate everything, particularly in the Pakistani spectrum. But I want to assist your regulatory views by helping us, by others, to build it for you in terms of what you're going to then eventually tame and say, okay, yes, this is what I'm going to regulate. This is what I can standardize or supervise, particularly in the Pakistani spectrum. And this is where I want to start with my tech giant, Brother Mohamed Kateeb. Kateeb, I'm bothering you, man, because you set the tone, because Bilal has to then wrap it up with his regulatory perspective, because he in Pakistan is planning big stuff, and I'm privy to it. So, so before he gives us the regulatory cap, I want to start with the tech giant who's just transformed its scale into his NTO version, which is a much bigger scale. And Mubarak to you, my brother. Mubarak again for that move in your life. Topic is talking about cryptos, CBDCs, even NFTs are our latest phenomena. By the way, there's a cricket league going on of oldies in Oman. They call it the Legends Cricket League. I don't know if Salman had a chance to go and watch a cricket match. NFT is being used in that, to be honest. They do a, they do an audience, what do you call it? Audience campaigning, where they ask audience to answer a few questions and win in NFTs. Can you believe that? So, so these phenomena are happening, and whereas countries and people have a different perspective on cryptos clamping down hard, governments taking action. I believe Bilal Sahab, FIA recently clamped down on cryptocurrencies. State Bank always raises an eyebrow, the Central Bank of Pakistan, so many other central banks, Chinese included, on cryptos, but they are tending to say yes to central bank digital currencies and other similar initiatives. Kateeb, your take.
Thank you very much, Brother Mughees. Again, it's really we live in amazing times, and things are changing all over the world. Yes, the world is being digitalized, and it's being accelerated through what happened in the last couple of years. But there's a rise in the decentralization and the mass movement, especially in and we're focusing here on the financial decentralized finance. There's a lot of initiatives that happening that complement each other, and they actually push. So you talk about the digital currency, you talk about the cryptocurrency, you talk about the blockchain technologies, you talk about the NFTs and how we govern all that. All this, there are initiatives around the world that are actually pushing in parallel to make all these pieces come in together. Basically, this is if you look, if I may look at the big picture in the 2000s, there was the Web 2.0, and the Web 2.0, it's basically where you had those amazing companies coming in and creating a new model on the internet that energized the commerce, and you have the Amazon, you have the Microsoft, and you have the Netflix, but the thing about these companies is it's basically they are authority, right? They are authority on this, and although Web 2.0 was a huge success, and we cannot ignore all that. There is something new that a lot of people are calling it Web 3.0, and it can actually get much bigger than that. That is developing, where you're removing all these middle platforms, and you are creating a sustainable economy based on the individuals, and that those individuals and that new economy, the Web3 economy, is in the center of it is actually the decentralized finance. And one component, very important component of the decentralized finance is actually the currency. Of course, we have the cryptocurrency, and the cryptocurrency like a Bitcoin, where it doesn't have any authority around the world. And actually, it's basically based on a network of computers that work together and validate that and store value in that cryptocurrency. We also, the reaction to that came from many of the central banks around the world. And these central banks around the world are actually trying to create a digital currency, which is, by the way, completely different than what a cryptocurrency is, because it's based on a country fiat currency. And the fiat, if you look at what the fiat is, it's actually a Latin word, comes from determination by authority. So the central banks here are creating these digital currencies to kind of take the air out of the cryptocurrency, which is, as we know, the valuation of it is having attraction all around the world. So what we're seeing today in the digital currency, we're seeing a lot of central banks doing amazing initiatives. Of course, who's being, and by the way, there's a lot of geopolitical dimension to this, because as you know, the dollar dominates today, the dollar and a couple of other currencies, they are dominate the economy. So when the US, when the economy goes down, you print dollars, the UK can print pounds, etc., etc. And if you go completely to the cryptocurrencies, then they cannot do that anymore. So you will find resistance in the Feds, for example, on that area in the US, in the Feds, and they raise issues like privacy, where if you use digital currency, then every purchase you make is recorded somewhere on the cloud, and that privacy issue is a serious issue there. But even with that resistance from the Feds and from the privacy issues and other risks, there's a lot of initiatives around the world that actually working from the Bank of Japan, basically cooperating and saying we want to cooperate with UK, with Europe and the US to create standards for that. Of course, countries like, because of the geopolitical situation, countries like Russia, Iran, and even Turkey and others are very interested in cryptocurrency, because it takes that dollar and the SWIFT network out of the equation. Switzerland, as being a financial center, has a lot of initiatives. The Bank of International Settlement, the Swiss Bank, the Six Swiss Exchange, I think it's called, and others are actually, they want Switzerland to continue to be the center of finance for even the digital currency. So they are working on tokenizing the currencies and settling and allowing you to settle all your financial assets through CBDC. In addition to that, countries like Bulgaria, South Korea, they all have amazing initiatives. So a lot of things happening around the world around crypto digital currencies that we can talk about more about as we go in the discussion.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brother Kateeb and Bilal Saab. So is Masumi and Salman. One thing that I think you should take note, and I'll get back to it, and you can use it also in when you speak as well, that Brother Kateeb used this DeFi or decentralized finance as one way of telling us that why cryptos are becoming such a phenomena, Sharia views or country views aside, I feel, we can't stop them. To be honest, we can delay them, but you can't stop this sort of currency digitization. And be it crypto, be it you call it with the name of HDs, digital currencies, non-fungible tokens these days and whatnot, it's a matter of time that world will eventually bow its head down, because they are attacking, they are trying to penetrate. It's like sharks. You try and put a wall, they hit the nose hard, they fail, they go back again, sharpen themselves, give a new name, and then come back and attack you before they penetrate the wall, and then you say, yes, okay, allow them. So this will happen, like with so many other things that we didn't want, but yet it happened, and now it's becoming a norm. And of course, what I also believe is that yesterday I gave a keynote, and I didn't want to give a scare to people, but I was alerting them that with the bliss of technology, be it in form of digital currencies, and even if you can't stop them, there is an embedded dark side of it, which is called cybersecurity risk. And this security risk, Bilal Saab, your hands are going to be absolutely full, because this is non-stop. And you will always be either being proactive or reactive in regulating it, because this is a dark package that comes with such digitization or cryptoization of the currencies. And I think, when SECP or Bank Nizwas and all of these will try and digitize themselves, you can't avoid this sort of decentralized phenomena that comes with it, and hence all the other issues. And again, I want to come back to Bilal and His Excellency Bilal and Salman, but I want to build further on all of this story of this massive uplead to digitization of currencies. When I bring in my Japanese brother, Masumi, who's a king of blockchain, they tell me, and blockchain at the end of the day is at the back end of all encryption, Masumi, and I think it's going to only increase. And to be honest, the relevance of blockchain is not only going to be limited to cryptos and such currencies. This is going to be much more, at a massive scale in other aspects too. Smart contracts, although this is not a topic of discussion, is an absolute, ideal way to use blockchain. What do you think? First of all, do you agree that yes, digital currency or even cryptos are here to stay? You can only delay the entrance, you can't avoid them. And then, if so, what are your recommendations for folks like His Excellency Bilal and even a banker like Salman to strategize against and for it?
Yes, thank you. So I think DeFi and blockchain are neutral in terms of Sharia. Let's say if we invest equity with speculation, it will breach Sharia. But if we invest in the proper manner in terms of Sharia, in such a case, such investment of equity can be Sharia compliant. Let's say, I believe blockchain can lead to innovative disruption in Islamic finance industry too. How can we apply blockchain to Islamic finance? Let me share a common agenda in Islamic finance industry, namely trading fee for commodity Murabba transaction. Many banks and customers would like to decrease trading fee of commodity Murabba transaction because it is the additional cost compared to conventional finance. Commodity exchange could introduce a commodity token, which is a digital certificate of commodity on blockchain. Thereafter, Islamic finance industries could further reduce administrative costs, such as trading fee for Murabaha with application of on-chain swap, by which Islamic banks and customers could exchange central bank digital currency and commodity token at the same time on blockchain without counterparty risk and complicated operation, because we need not rely on the trusted third party on blockchain in the future. Let me share one more point in terms of Sharia compliance. A blockchain will help Murabaha transaction to comply Sharia more efficiently. For example, with Islamic banks, they cannot sell a commodity before owing it to complete share, right? What we call sequence issue. Therefore, they need to organize and record the sequence of commodity transaction, which currently is very manual process. If we use blockchain, we can enjoy timestamp function. It is very helpful for Sharia review process as well, because distributed ledger under blockchain is immutable and traceable. Blockchain can be very suitable and efficient to Islamic finance. Nevertheless, there are some imminent challenges in the application of such technologies in Islamic finance that are still in the evolutionary stage. Islamic finance industry could make effort with collaboration between the Islamic finance.
Who's talking? Yeah, carry on, brother Masumi.
Yeah. So I think that once we can introduce the blockchain with on-chain swap, we can organize a mobile transaction in the efficient manner, and then we can trace a record of the sequence of the commodity transaction. It will help Sharia review and the Sharia audit process. So once we introduce blockchain for Islamic finance transaction will be more cleaner and beautiful in terms of Sharia, because everybody cannot run away from any fake record. So blockchain feature is immutable and traceable. So that's why once we introduce blockchain, Islamic banking will be more beautiful or cleaner in terms of Sharia. This is my view. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, dear Masumi. And you know, guess what? Arigato again, and some really white Chinese, not Chinese in this case, Japanese soup and noodles on the way for you to keep your appetite going, because this is heavy dose. This is a heavy dose already. Now, again, my build-up is towards His Excellency Bilal Saab, because he is going to then, you know, regulate, cover everything, because at the end of the day, what Kateeb, Salman, or Masumi or myself submit, if things don't go supervised or standardized or regulated, we can't move on. So Bilal Saab, this is now a banker going to tell you what he thinks about crypto and HTCs before we come to you. Salman, your take. What do you think? Is it here to stay, and it's just, you can't avoid it, but you can just delay it, number one? And since this is the case, what challenges the system, the personnel in the system, and the industry itself is going to face? Are we ready or not? Or is it too much too soon?
Thank you, Brother Mughees. Thank you for this opportunity. And this question is, I think, is a very critical one. What I see, crypto and this concept, the concept is acceptable, but there are certain challenges. One, it is important that from the regulator side, it needs a regulation. And that's why the regulators are all thinking about how they can regulate this technology. The main problem remains unattended, and it is unanswered. What we see is any cryptocurrency needs to be a value against exchange of good or against an exchange of the currency. Today, Bitcoin, for example, is valued against $1. So if you value against dollars, then the concept remains that value remains a critical point, a critical currency for the system. Now we talk about the acceptance of this concept. If it is not regulated, then it doesn't have the feature of the currency. Like Brother Mohamed Kateeb mentioned, it is more the political issue remains there, which is dollar dominates in the global world, and it will continue to dominate, right? So how you're going to take that role of dollar and transfer this to a cryptocurrency and transact all your currencies or your global transactions through crypto, going to be a challenging. Because for the regulator, it's not only this, they have to control the set of policy for the system to run. Crypto is something which doesn't have that feature, and from the Sharia perspective, it's very important is the valuation and the acceptance. it has a lot of volatility. So the currency having such a volatility doesn't give the acceptance widely. So from the banker's perspective, banker's point of view, we see a challenge here on the valuation of the currency and the regulation to regulate this, because if it is not regulated, we remain the issues of the compliance are not addressed here. So technology needs a little bit more improvement, enhancement for the wide acceptance, especially for the issues related to the valuation of it, the pricing of it, and that's where the business are going to accept it. Coming to the DLT, distributed ledger technology, blockchain, I think that is going to stay. It's a concept which is going to evolve over the period, and I think the benefit is remain there for the financial sector, and especially for the Islamic banking, like Masumi was mentioning. There's a clear business case for the Islamic finance with some improvement. And again, we go back to the same, that the adaptability of the system is where the is going to play the role for the future acceptance of the technology.
Fantastic, Brother Salman, and I think I tend to agree with most of what you have said already. And this is amazing because you see, now we want to listen to what a regulator would, term all of these things and give its own quotation and its own spin to the things of affairs that is necessarily going to be done, in this case, the Pakistani spectrum. Bilal Saab, again, thank you very much for blessing this occasion with your expert self. I mean, always an honor. Now you've heard the expert opinion of a tech giant. You've heard an expert opinion from a land of robots, that's Japan, from a blockchain expert. And then you've heard an Islamic banker's side of affairs. And you know that you're going to operate in an environment where the government is supporting digitization because it's tech-savvy environment over there. Number two, you guys have to operate in a country that is not only going to do it in a niche level, but also a country that is still an underdeveloped status. And so many things that are unclear policy-wise, and otherwise as well. And yet there is a push from the central bank and the government to upgrade ourselves or amplify our digitization and technology adoptions to compete in the international market as well as in the local market. Neighboring India is what? I mean, over $130 billion of just technology exports, whereas Pakistan just reaching roughly $2.5 billion, even though there is massive potential, if not at equal level. So your hands are full. I don't want to be in your seat because, man, oh man, expectations are more, people are asking for more, government is asking for more, SECP's responsibility are more, Pakistani environment is underdeveloped, it's niche, awareness is less. It's 10 things operating at the same time. How are you going to manage it?
Great, thank you, Mughees. Yes. Happy to hear that everyone understands that it is a regulatory responsibility here. And, when I heard Brother Kateeb, I picked up two things from Brother Kateeb, the decentralization part, which is absolutely, I think, correct. It's not even a choice, decentralization, and the response has been phenomenal, and there's all types of crowdfunding and peer-to-peer, etc. I'm not going to go into that. The other thing,
Bilal sir, by the way, in the Pakistani environment, just since there's majority of Pakistanis, there are double shahs and the Mudarabas scandals and all this and that too. And on top of it, you mix crypto in that culture or digital currencies. God knows what will happen.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say when Brother Kateeb said that these are exciting times. For a regulator, these are very scary times, exactly on what you said. And, but, like, Masumi said about quality transactions for Islamic Sharia products. Yeah, I think this is where we will gain advantageously, from digitization, is that you'll see quality that would be coming in, and you'd be able to monitor and sort of, ensure reporting and compliance in a more standardized and uniform way. So makes it a little easier, that once the enabling regulatory environment is there, then digitization makes it much easier as well. So I mean, I'm looking forward to it. The regulator doesn't have a choice, and we welcome change. The disruption, it's already here, and it's creating a whirlwind. Unfortunately, it's not just Pakistan, but around the world, when you go and see what are the enabling regulatory environment for fintech companies, it's scarce. It's not available. Even advanced countries like Malaysia, who do phenomenal research. In fact, if you just if you came across the SC Malaysian Comsec's report on advancing the Islamic capital market through financial technologies, an excellent sort of a start, and they give a key policy recommendation, and that the first key policy recommendation is that there is a legal and regulatory framework challenge. So, the market, the non-regulators, the market participants, and everyone may have jumped straight to the commercial viability bit, but, I would like to say for all fintechs, for all fintech startups, I think the success of any fintech is going to be its adeptness for regulatory compliance through technology. Now, this does not necessarily mean that it's what, the SECP lays forward, because by the time the regulators, you see, this is something Brother Mughees and I were talking about earlier, is that it's not just SEC. Within Pakistan, it's the state bank, it's the other regulators, even the law enforcement agencies, as you mentioned, that the FIA and the crypto issue. So all of these institutions need to be synergized. This is a real critical thing from the regulatory angle, is that all institutions, the regulators, their roles have to be delineated, and they have to be sure about whose mandate. I mean, there is a lot of overlap when you come to, capital market issuances, but digital payments, it involves both the state bank and the SEC Pakistan. So it's not going to be very easy to demarcate on whose mandate is what. It's going to be a mix and match, and sort of it's going to be a collective regulation where all agencies will sort of data warehouse everything and ensure regulatory compliance. But from the fintechs, from the angle of the entity or the fintech company, I repeat, I think the fintech that is going to be, it would voluntarily have to adopt those digital or those applications, the regulatory applications, that ensures compliance of the various laws of Pakistan or whatever jurisdiction there is, be it Companies Act or the Securities Law, or the Futures law, the anti-money laundering. So KYC, CDC, audit trails, digital payments, even the state banks, all sorts of regulations. There's a plethora of regulations that companies already have to adhere to. You need to digitize all that and ensure, minimum capital requirements, solvency, et cetera, all would have to be digitized. And a good fintech company will not wait for the SEC or the other regulators to come up with some sort of regulatory environment, but would be, sort of abreast and be ahead of the times and ensure for itself, for its long-term sustenance. Because, I fear that it may be unconscious or it may be a deliberate effort, but a lot of these fintechs are already playing in a space where there is an absence of regulation, and they are already indulging in regulatory arbitrage. So I'm just saying it's conscious, and no fault to the fintechs already out there, because there is no regulation right now. You know, my favorite analogy is the train is running, their tracks haven't been laid yet. So, you know, we have to lay the tracks very, very quickly. It's not an easy job, because this sort of regulatory environment has not been created anywhere in the world, maybe give or take a couple of jurisdictions. I'm not up to mark on the research, but I believe Malaysia has some guidelines and Bahrain has something, and DFSA probably has something. I'm not very sure. We have an environment of our own. Pakistan is, you know, very different. It has its own dynamics. It has the double shahs and all. And, you know, we have to keep those things in mind and sort of customize an environment that is best for our needs while keeping in with technological advancement and ensuring that we provide what fintechs really require. So it's going to be an arduous task. We have to cover the spectrum of compliances, the entire range. But I would, you know, my plea and my, you know, sort of advice to all fintechs would be to not wait for the regulator, but ensure, you know, just like you have an internal audit and you're ensuring ensure digitally that you have those digital solutions and applications that would require 100% transparency and adherence and compliance to the regulations. So, you know, this is what I can say in a very sort of
yeah, I mean, I don't know why you're saying in a very sort of, because you've been hitting all the right nails on the right heads in an absolute crisp and in a very eloquent manner, Bilal Saab.
Thank you.
And what I've realized is all of a sudden, and this just came to my mind when I was listening to you, particularly in a Pakistani environment or countries that are similar status of Pakistan, underdeveloped but tending to get into a second or a third gear of development. When we are going to introduce this sort of, you know, rampant yet unregulated digitalization, which you've rightly said that your train is running, but the rails are not there yet. So for such a digitization that is happening so fast, fear in the Pakistani similar countries environment was people may use this in a Ponzi scheme manner. So one of the, particularly for countries, even other countries, one of the major priority for regulators or supervisory bodies would be is how to avoid these Ponzi affairs through this cryptos or digitization. And absolutely. FIA, folks who don't know FIA in Pakistan, it is the FBI version of Pakistan, who just did a clamping down on some crypto issues going on in the country, and they were very proactive, did it on time. So I want to put this forward, by the way. Do you think, guys, and I'll come back to Kateeb once I wrap up this session with Bilal, and we'll go round two. Do you think that among the most major component, particularly when it comes to fintech and especially digitization of currencies, be it NFTs or cryptos or whatever names that you have, even the doggy coins, you just saw what happened 6 months ago in doggy coin status. You know, even the Elon Musks are coming in hand. So do you think that the main idea behind all regulation, the main target would how to stop Ponziism coming through or from this crypto domains in those sectors? And Bilal Sahab, you've mentioned very rightly, and of course you've said that you don't have a privy to so many other countries, and it's so new that countries themselves are at a beta when it comes to regulating fintech. The fintech is at beta, and regulation and supervision of those fintech and digitization is even more double beta. So it's very hard to find a very robust model of airtight regulation, because this is technology. And you can't have an airtight regulation and you can say, I have a complete set of regulation. Yep. But on the similar lines that you're hinting on, that fintechs should have the courage or to go digitization first and then let them be regulated. This is the model. Yeah, this is the model that Singapore has so beautifully followed. Bilal Saab, yeah. Singapore was clever where it allowed this liberty to all these tech folks to do the tech solutions under the banner of digitization and financial technology, and then synergize with them to help them learn how to regulate. So it was a very two hands clapping at the same time. And the term they understood and coined was, and which I'm a huge believer when it comes to technology regulation, they started regulating activities rather than regulating entities. You see? Yeah. So they were going activity-wise, regulate each activity, each solution, and before you know it, you're already regulating 20 different solutions, and you have a 20, a huge set of regulation that is already there, and you can call it, you have a rather complete regulation. So that was a beautiful approach, and I back this approach, and I second this because this, I think, is the way forward, very smart way forward. So Kateeb, do you think learning from SECP, and folks who don't know SECP is the CMA of Pakistan, or the Security Commissions in Malaysian terms. So Kateeb, do you think that for regulators, and this is where, Kateeb, you should also be a helping hand to parties like SECP who want to run a very stable show in digitization in Pakistan. So do you think for regulators, Ponziism or controlling Ponziism for an underdeveloped market where these things go, very regularly is going to be the main target, or do you think it should be the target, but 2 or 3 other important targets should be there too for regulators?
Listening to Brother Bilal and listening to the issues, I think we need to be clear about a couple of things. First of all, fintech can exist. We're talking about the digital currencies and all that without that, right? Fintechs can have a payment switch, and you can actually use your normal payment methods, credit cards, whatever, and you can have an amazing fintech ecosystem. So we shouldn't bundle everything together and say, oh, we have to figure everything out before we actually move the ship. No, you can have an amazing fintech ecosystem, and many countries do, without even talking about digital currencies. What digital currencies does, or what digital currency does, is actually does inclusion. It increases the inclusion because it allows you to have easier way to actually interact with these fintechs. And then the digital currency is under the government and the central bank control. Now, there's another world, parallel world that's happening. And this is really the dynamics that I think the regulator is gonna struggle with. The parallel world that is being created is this, what we call decentralized regulation. And actually they call it DREG, which is like for the financial. And the decentralized regulations are actually driven by no governments at all, but by smart cards on a blockchain where basically it's executing. And how fast those guys are moving is what's scaring those regulators. And the regulators stepping in and saying, let's hit the brakes and all that. You mentioned you admire Singapore. On one area, Singapore is doing an amazing job, but in another area, they're actually stopping cryptocurrency. I mean, if you look at their regulations, they're not allowing a discussion on that issue, which is very, very interesting. Russia was also very strict on that, but then they realized by doing that, they are actually suffocating innovation. So what Russia did lately said, you know what, we're gonna have to regulate this. So they're actually loosening up a little on the digital currencies. So I believe the regulators have to loosen up. You don't have to let it completely out, but you have to loosen up, allow innovation, and kind of watch. The fintechs, I think it's too late. I mean, I really do believe, I'm not very aware of the Pakistan fintech ecosystem, but the reason I'm probably not aware of it is because there's not a lot happening in that area. I mean, I hear about a couple of interesting initiatives, but I don't believe that you have a full ecosystem. You don't have a sandbox by the regulators where a fintech can plug into that sandbox and test all their services and whatever. And I do believe Pakistan, yes, it has a lot of specific environment to it, but also I don't believe you have to reinvent the wheel. You have to look at what other countries, similar countries, are doing. You have to bring best practices. This is what the whole world is doing. They're looking around, seeing what's best practices. Even the US is copying from Europe. Europe is copying from the US. Australia is copying from Europe. So we need to be smart and say, you know what? Let's look at the best practices around the world. This works, this doesn't work, and put it up together. So the fintech ecosystem, we are too late. We need to push very hard. And based on your numbers, Mughees, brother Mughees, Dr. Mughees, based on your numbers, you're basically, Pakistan is only less than, what is it, 1.5% of India's technology expert. That's to me is strange, because if we look at the population and say Pakistan is about 12-13% of the population, I'm not sure if I got the numbers right, but let's say 15% of India's population, at least you need to be 15% of the technology that India is producing. So I do believe, just to summarize very quickly, on the fintech side, we need to look at best practices, encourage the ecosystem. The regulators have to build the sandbox and move very fast. On the digital currency, the regulators need to consider, is this a good way to inclusion? But we are still early in the stages of using blockchain for digital currency. So you're not really that way behind, because most of the world, even the advanced countries like Singapore, they're struggling still with that concept. So you're not very late on that, and you can take your time to understand how you actually position yourself in that area. In the same time, you have the parallel world who's going to be pushing to self-regulate through the decentralized regulation, and then the regulators has to deal with that. Either say it's completely illegal, fall behind innovation, and block it, or you can basically say, okay, let's watch, and maybe we'll let this activity okay, this one okay. Those are the three things I think that we have to look at very closely and decide on.
Wow, Eureka, my brother Kateeb. You know, I mean, vindication hands-on, bringing Kateeb on all of my panels is a classic vindication, why I should always have him next to me, so that, you know, he streamlines things so well. You know, Kateeb, I don't know when is the next elections in Lebanon, but what I can tell you, I am going to do your poster. I am going to do your poster, and I'll that you leave to me. You know, and Bilal Sahab, you know, campaign I mean, what I'm trying to tell, sorry about this local slang, Kateeb, I'm asking our brother Bilal that, you know, I mean, we'll have to synergize with Kateeb, because he's a mountain full of experience when it comes to
it would be a pleasure. Yeah, if I could just inform, you know, SEC has done 3 cohorts of its regulatory sandbox. So there's I mean, there has been, you know, 3 sort of test phases, and we've had all sorts of fintechs come in, P2P, crowdfunding, you know, and other payments, digital payments, etc. So it's not, you know, a regulatory sandbox is already 2 years old. You know, I just want to clear that if there are regulations available, you know, I'm just saying they're very scant. They're not available around the world. It's not like, you know, take over regulations that you can go and you'll find, you know, ample countries having takeover. You just find that country's name and replace with your country's name, and there you go, regulations are ready. And we've done it many times. But when it comes to regulation of you know, digital financial services, you will not find anything. It's very, very limited. You will have to invent the wheel here. And then, you know, on digital currencies, no verdicts. I don't want to give any verdicts here right now. What I'm saying is, you know, we encourage whatever it is digital that is coming in, and the verdicts can come as well. But either fintech or digital currency, the mode of payments, etc. All I'm saying is they need to be regulated, and the regulations do not exist at the moment. That is the crucial and critical issue and the challenge that we are facing. Regardless on the verdict, whether it's right or wrong, if you are introducing a product, if you are introducing a system, it needs to be monitored, and it needs to be
Indeed.
It needs to be regulated.
And particularly when it's all man-made, and particularly when it's so fast in nature, and particularly when it has a huge dark side package of massive cybersecurity attached with it that you can't avoid. So this has to be even more tightly regulated than 101 finance itself. So I mean, guess what? In an Islamic financial sector, you were already struggling to how to regulate top priority Islamic banking and finance, and now you have a technology version coming in. So it's a tough job to be Bilal Rasul in SECP, and I wish him all the luck and support. And upaove che de Kateeb no agenda che. Pata sir. Brothers, Mother Masumi, before I come back to you, I have a Islamic banker strategist who is at the verge of coming up with the first digital bank in Oman, an Islamic digital bank. Folks, I mean, this is how fancy Bank Nizwa is going, that they're coming up with a digital Islamic bank branch in the Sultanate of Oman. And Oman, as you know, I mean, it's a very laid back, easy flowing economy, closed economy that is now tending to open up beautifully, massive opportunities on offer. And Bank Nizwa is trying to take the lead in this as well, in digitization, while it carries the lead in so many other ways. So Salman, what do you think? I mean, do you agree with Brother Bilal and Brother Kateeb on what they have submitted, particularly when you're on the verge of launching the first ever digital Islamic bank? By the way, the hype is so much that people want to merge or, acquire Bank Nizwa. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but I'm guessing Salman is already crunching some numbers. So, so Salman, what is it? What do you think? I mean, and do you think, what challenges Oman will have in accomplishing all of this, regulation-wise as well as Islamic banking-wise?
So I'll go back to the same discussion like what we have been having. Adoption of crypto and adoption of digital currency is the two different agenda. So the digital currency is something that can be backed by the government. It can be controlled. It can be same digital real. I think the concept of what China is adopting is a digital yuan. So the issue is not having a digital currency. The issue is having a out of control a currency that is not in the control of the central bank. So what is the objective that the people in the large we want to achieve with having a digital currency is to bring the efficiency in the payment system. That I think can be achieved having a digital currency backed by the government. So government issues a digital currency, digital real, digital dirham, digital rupee. So so that serve the purpose of addressing the one of the issues that today we are discussing is the bringing the efficiency in the payment system. But replacing your core currency, your fiat currency, your backed currency with a cryptocurrency is not a good idea. It will never be accepted. You will always have a replacement, or you can always have barriers to accept it, because your country economy globally is measured in dollars. Your debt payments is measured in dollars. So I see a bigger challenge for the regulator. It is not only this, that we simply come and say that technology we want to support and adopt it, and the regulator will never support, because apart from the customer experience in the digitalization for the improving efficiency, the major is you issue a different currency, a digital mode of the currency, rather replacing a currency. We have seen when the oil crashed, and those currency economies are depending on the oil, we have seen how it was difficult for them to issue a stimulus package, whereas the countries which have no pegging issue, US, Canada, Pakistan, India, UK, they all supported their nation by just printing the money and increasing the debt on their own, which elevated the inflation. Whereas here, it did not happen, because it's at the end of the day, it's a currency which is pegged, or the commodity backed currency, So the concept of issuing currency versus issuing a crypto or supporting a crypto is a two different agenda. And I think from the regulatory side, I see more support on the digital currency, and very soon government will issue their own currency in the digital form, which will be widely accepted, and you can measure at the end the economy. So your the major issue is on the how you support their wealth, their capital support for the economy. That will come when you have a measurable terms of a currency, not something that values increases or decreases over the night, 20%, 30%. So you see one day your economy drops by 20%, one night increase by 30%. You know, that will not work. So now I come to the issue of what Bank Niswa on the digital front, what we are doing, which is a little bit different. So what we are doing in Oman, the bank is on the track of going announcing a digital only bank. So we are working on the 4 agendas. One is that we want to improve our customers' experience. So we understand that the brick and mortar model cannot work alone. We have to have a digital arm where we can go more to the masses, bring more inclusion of the people. The second is improving our backend operations. So more automation and on the backend of office automation that we need to do, improving our infrastructure. And the third that we want to do is using data for our business, day-to-day business. You know, data is in this part of the world, data is very limited, and now the banks are working to store the data and make the data more meaningful for their day-to-day business, especially the now changing economic or accounting standards. Data is becoming very critical, and it has so much so that it impacts the P&L of a bank. So we are going through with those changes, and we see that the data is critical for us to support our profitability and the growth going forward. The fourth we are seeing is investing to our revenue generation projects and the partnership. So the model earlier used to be like you acquire a software and you take a licenses and you implement it, and after 5 years you change your software and take the depreciation cost and all. So the little bit mindset has been changed, is that we see the partnership model is more working in the partnership, not in the technology provider, but the fintech. We don't see a fintech is a threat to us. It's a fintech that here to stay, and we are going to work with them. We need to be more collaborate with them. Our strategy is collaborative. We want to work with them so that our consumer end user gets a benefit, and we focus in our core business activity, which is supporting the economy, supporting our wholesale banking businesses. So the retail side, we want to be partner with the customer and be part of their daily life, but not on our expense, then through a partnership. So I see there's a lot of room available, and especially in Oman, where we, since last year, only a lot of fintech companies came online, and they're doing very good. We see food delivery companies and ed tech. So I think the future is bright for digital banking here in Oman, and we are just started, and we are seeing that going forward, we have a lot of volumes going to come on the digital banking side and digital bank, and it's really a bank within a bank. So for the bank, the major value comes when you reduce your cost to income. We cannot increase our revenue, we cannot increase the profit. So what we can do is we can reduce the cost, right? So that's what we are aiming for, and to all angles, be on the revenue side, how we can reduce the cost, and our operations, how we can improve our efficiency, and also on the asset quality side, how we can use data to better take a credit and investment decision. So we are using technology for to drive our profitability, and that's what we are heading towards, digitalization, and that's what the path is for Bank Niswa.
All the best to Bank Niswa for all of these very gadgetry initiatives, setting the trends in the market. And Salman, credit to you and your team and the whole management for being proactive and courageous enough to set these trends in the market. And you're right. I tend to agree that there is a difference between digital currencies and cryptocurrencies, although at essence they start from the same perspective. Even if it's government backed, this is where the key difference would become. And I get the idea that Salman is of the category that he's a backer of digital currency and not cryptocurrencies, if I'm right, Salman. So you support digital central bank currencies rather than the cryptocurrencies. It appears Kateeb nodding head as well. Kateeb is also a supporter of a central bank digital currency. He's supporter of all that is technology. And I'm guessing, Bilal Saab is listening very, very, keenly and making up his mind that which party does he back, the digital currency or the cryptos. I'm guessing he'll go for the digital, and as well as long it's both. Okay, Kateeb is putting his money on Bilal, saying he'll back both, so we can bet on that. Now, Masumi, my Japanese gadgetry brother, winner of multiple blockchain awards, by the way. Good thing about these Japanese, what I've found is they're not only so humble, so clean, and so kind and welcoming people. And I love being in Japan. And I spent time in Japan, and it's an awesome. I'm a different person altogether. I say sometimes, this is planet Earth. This is God's domain, and in between is Japan. This is how beautiful and clean it is. It's different. So my Sumi, what are you? Are you a crypto backer or a digital currency backer or a backer of none, and you think something else should happen? And how do you see it going? Particularly, and this is the last portion of our session, and I want to end it by bringing in this massive agenda of cybersecurity, because whatever bliss that we are talking about, whatever bliss that Salman has hinted upon, Salman and everybody, how are you going to tame cybersecurity? Bilal Saab, Kateeb, cybersecurity, this is going to be messy. I don't know, believe you me, I don't know the bliss with the dark side of cybersecurity, how the marriage is going to be made. This is going to be tough, guys. Climate change is incoming already. So, Masumi, cybersecurity, your take.
Yeah, thank you. I love this topic. So, because I dislike speculation, I don't like the speculation in terms of the cryptocurrency. So, I graduated from NSF, master in Initial Finance. Hey, back to the cybersecurity. So, let's say 30 years ago, my father said, nobody, no country, no bank will use internet because internet will cause cybersecurity risk. But see, all countries, all banks are using internet banking and website, right? And then once they adopt these new technology, economy will grow up. So history is repeating now. If we adopt the blockchain, the country and the government and the economy will grow up. So let's say, so in terms of the information security, so counterparty risk is also one big agenda. Let's say, as you may know, Facebook changed their name, right, to Metaverse, what we call. And then economy of Metaverse will grow up.
From Spider-Man.
Yeah, yes. And then actually my kids enjoy the online game, what we call Fortnite. And then my kids said, once they get the good item, like a good Japanese sword, but once he get it, he is happy, but he level up, so he would like to sell the item to others. But actually, he cannot sell the item because it will cause counterparty risk. Let's say my boy tried to sell the item to counterparty in the website. Even though my kids pass the Japanese sold item to counterparty, we are not sure counterparty will pay the money to my boy, right? So that's why we cannot exchange the goods in Metaverse. But once we introduce on-chain swap, we can eliminate counterparty risk because at the same time, we can exchange on the asset, both assets on blockchain. So once we introduce on-chain swap technology, counterparty risk will be disappeared from all over the world. So I think this is one of the disruptive innovation. Thank you.
Wow. What? This is what Japanese are all about. What are you at a different level altogether? You just solved the cybersecurity risk in a Japanese way. these guys actually invented Bitcoins, if you remember. Anybody who is aware of these cryptos and Bitcoins, this is Japan. Japanese.
Yeah,
by
Satoshi Nakamoto. Yeah.
Yes.
But Satoshi Nakamoto writes a paper, but intention is not speculation. Peer-to-peer currency. Peer-to-peer means Satoshi Nakamoto loves microfinancing. He would like to, he want all people to send 1 cent with cheaper price. So once we can introduce such a peer-to-peer framework, I think many people can donate from Japan to other countries as well. I think blockchain will change the world.
This is Japan for you. This is Masumi for you. What can I say? I told you Japan is, this is planet Earth. This is sky, and in between is Japan. What is going on? You know what I mean? Masumi stole the show over here. I mean, I was getting so scared with this cybersecurity issue, and it just solved the KYC issue in just few sentences. I mean, this is land of gadgetry stuff. Japan, they're at a different level. Come down at our level, and then let us know what you want to tell us to do. So, Bilal Sab, your take: cybersecurity. You think regulation technology is tough? Well, good luck regulating cybersecurity. Don't believe what my Masumi told you. He's Japanese.
Okay, firstly, you know, my sentiments about Japan, exactly. You know, I always say that if God ever wants to build a house and choose a country to live in, it'll be Japan.
True.
If he ever came down, he'd want to live in Japan.
Yeah,
definitely.
and he'll make sure there are no earthquakes.
Yeah. Yeah, well, in terms of cybersecurity, you know, Mughees, when I think about cybersecurity or cyber insecurity, you know, sometimes in one flash of thought or one train of thought makes me feel that it'll actually be easier when everything is digitized. But then on the other hand, you know, then you, in another flash, you know, say it's going to be a hell of a job, you know, Kachor. I think a little premature. I think as it depends on how good your systems are, is how good your security will be. You know, it depends on the tailoring of your solutions and your whole ecosystem and its vulnerability, etc. I'm not a cyber security expert or anything, and you know, we're not very digitized in Pakistan anyway. But you hear of attacks, you know, level 4, level 5, there are penetrations around the world. So it really depends on how good your security system is and how you manage it. So not a lot of, you know, input I can give you on this.
Yeah, but your hands are going to be absolutely full, and good luck with that. Kateeb, all this bliss, yet cybersecurity. And guess what? You know, a push of a button and you can have a new kind of bank runs. Your take.
Thank you, brother Mughees. By the way, in Arabic, we call it Mughees, not Mughees.
Sahih, yes. It's tha. Mim ghain ya tha.
TH, yes, Mughees. Actually, let me just make a statement, because while I was on mute, I told you I support both. And the reason I support both crypto and digital is today we would not have digital currency option if we did not have the crypto option. So I am always believe that we should let innovation fly, because you always get spin-offs. And basically the government's right now saying, no, I don't like crypto, but I'll use the blockchain technology that crypto is built on to do a digital currency that I can control and I can work on. So I believe we should continue both. And I think more innovation will come down the road, and we can use it in either way we go. So I never say no to anything or support one horse. I always bet on multi horses and see how it goes. When it comes to security, I'm gonna say a couple of things. Of course, I think in addition to security, there is a huge privacy issue too, because if I talk about privacy first, when you have anything digitalized, you're actually, with the digital currency specifically, I said it earlier, every single transaction that you make is stored somewhere in a database. So if you want this kind of openness with your government, that they know every single thing about you, then digital currency will be a great thing. That's why crypto has this attraction. Basically, nobody controls these transactions, and you can actually protect your privacy. The other thing, I'm going to say what I always say about security. Security will continue to evolve as the system evolves. We will have some problems down the road. And yes, there's a huge amount of money was lost in cryptocurrency just in 2021, billions and billions of dollars. And they are lost because of the different scams and the different things that was happening on the network. But people did not quit on cryptocurrency, and they just kept on, and they kept improving these securities. But I want to say something here that may surprise you. Quantum computing. In 5 to 7 years, we will have quantum computing. And even the best, to my friend Masumi, the best blockchain security, you can break it in seconds with quantum computing. And right now, they are actually building one in Google, one in Microsoft, one in IBM, et cetera, because quantum computing can do the processes what take years on a normal computer, because it uses 0 and 1, just 2 binaries. Quantum computing, you can do it in seconds or minutes. So basically, all our security systems in 5 to 7 years will be blown away, and we have to replace them with much more sophisticated security for quantum computing. The problem is, which I keep thinking about in the back of my mind, is the transition period. Imagine who gets his hands on the first quantum computers, what they can actually do to these security systems. And we hope and pray that those people are actually ethical and they can actually behave correctly, because I know that those quantum computers will be in the hands of the few before everybody else, and we'll see what happens. I think this is going to be the most exciting things that's going to happen in the next 5 to 7 years.
Boy, oh boy, I did not want to bring quantum computing in at all, because I think this is a first grade session, but this is such a close to my heart topic. I did 2 papers already, and one of them is going to come out, folks, where I actually linked quantum mechanics to the world of finance and theory of complexity. And you're so right, Brother Kateeb. This is unforeseen to the power of 10, where you're going to have not only a matrix reloaded, it's a matrix revolution, if you remember the movie. So and teleportation might as well be an issue in 20 odd years. So you're talking about fintech, cybersecurity, and blockchain cryptocurrencies, 5 to 7 years. You just see the trends. Quantum computing is, you will forget what fintech or big tech is. This is how the things are going to move when it comes to the quantum computing world. I would recommend to have a dedicated session, you and I, one-on-one, if not others want to join us, just to discuss this quantum computing phenomena. I want to leave it to that. Don't want to unleash too much on quantum computing. It's not scary. It's exciting yet scary, but it's just unheard of. This is why it's scary. So coming back to you, my brother Salman, thank you very much for your submissions. But I'm now very clear what you support. I'm very clear what you support. And you're supporting quantum computing, I'm saying. So Salman, your take. What do you think cybersecurity? Forget what Kateeb talked about. We didn't even hear quantum computing. Cybersecurity.
Quantum computing is also an interesting topic, by the way, but I see the more benefits. But yes, quantum computing has a risk, and I honestly never thought of it, that quantum computing can also challenge the cyber security.
Big time,
so
Salman.
That is something
big time.
I have.
The next
Yes.
tea you are going to have after my quarantine,
yes.
I'll tell you what's happening over there.
Yeah,
Brother Salman, if I may say one word, I know you're a risk guy. Add it to your risk list.
Exactly. I'm about to say this, that how quickly Mughees changed the spelling of his name. I have to do the same quick action and add to my list that how quantum
Brother
computing.
Kateeb. And he was right. It has to be Mughees.
So yes, I
Bilal
have
sahab,
to
ਤੁਸੀਂ
do the
ਦੱਸ
same.
ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਉਹ Mughees ਹੀ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਹੀ ਕਹਿ
Yes,
ਰਹੇ ਹੋ
you are, yeah. So I have to add this. Yes, it's something scary. So and also one side I'm increasing the risk. The other side, as what Masumi mentioned, is going to reduce the risk of the settlement. But that is a little bit conflict of interest that he is completely ignoring the banking system. So you don't need a bank to do a settlement. That's what the concept is. So our trade finance business and so that a non-funded business that bank earns going to have huge challenges. This is what I see now. So I don't know how the future is going to be, but for sure, for the long-term investor, for the banking system, they have to be careful. They have to look for the options now.
Who knows, COVID work from home is
Jokes
actually
apart, but
we teach us about quantum that people will be so much at home, they'll keep on working from home. No need to come. It's quantum computing time.
Yeah, and by the way, there are listed companies already working on it, and Google has made a huge investment. One, they are setting up their own, and they also have a company which is listed on New York Stock Exchange. It's called IONQ, the symbol, where Google is a major investor, and the only business is the quantum computing. So time will tell how the quantum computing is going to work. Coming back to the cybersecurity issue, yes, that remains a challenge, and data and the privacy, because one side is a security for the end user, and other side the national security for the government. That's what the government thinks. And crypto, when you are not in control, so in many countries it's considered a national security threat. So I don't know how government going to address this, but as government going to work on the framework to regulate the entire system, till that time the cybersecurity, I think that is something that continue evolve as the technology going to evolve, and we have to work on the improvement of the cybersecurity. Yet we have challenges, and we have seen in the last year also certain cybersecurity incidents, and banks will continue to be vigilant in making their investment and keep cybersecurity one of the top risks, and which is what I can confirm that we take cybersecurity as one of the major risks to the financial system.
Yeah, and then Salman, you're so right, because now there is a new term already coined in the financial sector. They call it institutions to remain cyber hygiene. This is an actual term now. It's cyber hygiene. The more institutions are going to be cyber hygienic, the more they are going to, keep on setting the trends. And of course,
Exactly.
That's right. So let's make sure.
Yeah, but you see the open banking, and then we talk about open banking. That is where the open banking we get to face some hurdles from the regulator, from the banking system. That one side we want to promote open banking, and then other side is the client data confidentiality and the access of data. Nowadays, we feel more, we go with more convenience, and consumer themselves ready to share the data with the social media platforms and all. And we have seen Facebook or Metaverse, which is a new name of the Facebook, already testing their own payment system through WhatsApp. So all this safety and cybersecurity is going to be remain challenging, and it will have an impact in our lives. Let's see how it gets. But same here, I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but I can confirm this, that from the risk perspective, it's one of the major risks.
Well, I suggest Bilal Saab, Kateeb, Salman, let's go COVID as well as cyber hygiene. I have sanitizer for COVID. I don't know what sanitizer you will invent regulatory wise or technology wise to be cyber hygiene oriented. Now, Japanese, Masumi, what is your take? What hygiene are you recommending us? I know you've already you cracked the code of cybersecurity with just giving you your example of your kid going into gaming zones. What else can you offer? Japan can offer us. You're at a different level.
Thank you. So please keep it in mind. Please think about public blockchain. BSB, BSB stands for Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. So let's go back to 30 years ago. There are two types of internet: private internet and public internet. First of all, all banks would like to use the private internet in terms of security, but as you know, public internet won, right? So because interoperability is important, so I think public blockchain will be popular. So please think about public blockchain always. So in addition, let's say 10 years ago, most of people misunderstand Facebook is dangerous or not convenient, Twitter and Grab Uber. History is repeating. So most of people think blockchain is complicated, difficult, not practical, but history is repeating. So please start to think about the blockchain, actual practical solution. Actually, our team, BSB blockchain team, are willing to support to all countries who would like to have a cooperation with us. So please take action as soon as possible. And we are willing to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my brother. I mean, very crisp, and very to the point. And of course, whatever you have submitted and the work that you have done, award-winning works that you have done, brother Masumi, will be very well revered in terms of allowing us to use your expertise in blockchain and mastering blockchain when it comes to Islamic financial affairs or even regulating for such maqasid or such objectives. So thank you very much. Arigato, my brother, again.
Thank you.
And, the land of Japan, my best wishes. Guess what? Since we're talking about Japan so much, all of us are planning all of a sudden. We are teleporting, telepathing, mentally talking to each other. We want to come and have a Japanese tea with you in Tokyo, is what we are thinking already about. So we all agree. Yeah, we speak mentally. We have sign language. We speak with teleconnected rays. So we've all agreed. Brother Salman, thank you very much for putting Bank Nisbah's and your own expert opinions and perspective. It was a thorough treat. And Brother Kateeb, you had to bring quantum mechanics. You have just, ended it in such an exciting note, and also gave us the topic of season 2, is what I'm saying. You and I are going to have a discussion on that. Bilal Saab, kaisi rahi fir hai? I mean, you have been dosed with the Khateebs and Kabanis and the Japanese gadgetry by Masumi on show. And I think now at least pre-session, ex ante this session and ex post this session, my guess is at least you will have a little more understanding on what's coming in your hand, even within the double show environments that you want to operate in. So we all are at your support. We are all at SECP's support. I know that, you're very energetic. You're such a contributor that you're proactively already planning and coming up with these campaigns and these initiatives. I'm a privy to few, but brilliant as usual, having all of you here in this show. I think, I'm in COVID right now, recovering. I'm still in quarantine. Salman, your strategy in handling COVID. I'll have to speak one or two things once I meet with you in the bank. So, by the way, I got it from the bank. He's not listening. So, so this is what I'm saying. It is such an exciting session. I don't want to end it, but I'm pressing for time. But we want to continue these discussions from where we are leaving right now, with quantum coming into picture and leaving it at cybersecurity. Now, Bilal Saab, we are going to help you in terms of mastering the art of, beta regulating the whole fintech and technology digitization ecosystem. Institutional synergy, Bilal Saab, as you said, is going to be very crucial. Tell us what we can do to help you, cream roll this institutional synergy. Let's have State Bank, SECP, and even the ministries get on one page. Kateeb is a massive player in the whole technology arena. He'll be very instrumental in part of our team. So all in all, it's a massive session. Salman, thank you so very much. I'll see you soon. Masumi, we are coming for a Japanese tea in Tokyo. And then Kateeb, poster for your running for office election campaign on me. Bilal Saab, may Allah bless you. And synergy is on the way with you. Gentlemen, Thank you so very much. A
Thank you.
pleasure. May Allah bless you and keep yourself safe. And COVID hygiene is the way to go.
Thank you,
Thank you.
brother Mughees.
See you again. Bye.